In the third year of being Mrs. Liu, I accidentally hit my head and unlocked the memories of the rest of my life ahead of time. I'm the vicious supporting character in a fluffy romance novel centered around a beloved female lead. My husband is the devoted second male lead who quietly protects the heroine. My brother-in-law is the scummy ex-boyfriend of the heroine. My eldest brother-in-law is the ultimate CEO-type male lead. And I'm married to the second male lead, coveting the main lead, flirting with the younger brother-in-law, trying to charm every male lead from number 4 to 7. I harassed the heroine like I'd lost my mind, caused endless drama, and finally brought about my own downfall. They say when I died, I was still clutching half a chive pancakes fished out of a trash can. Chapter 1. Jenny Chan died in the middle of winter, with heavy snow falling from the sky. When her body was found, she was still clutching half a chive pancake she had picked from the trash bin. When the news reached H City, everyone who had known her said she deserved it. They laughed, insulted her, and in the blink of an eye, forgot about that wicked woman. Soon enough, no one would even remember her. What the hell is this? I don't even eat chive pancakes, much less pick them out of the trash. Who's spreading slander this early in the morning? I shot up in bed, only for a wave of dizziness to slam into me, forcing me to lie back down. I'd been bedridden for 5 days. Mild concussion. Doctor recommended complete rest. 5 days ago, it was the 3rd wedding anniversary between Martin Liu and me. Our families decided to celebrate it on a grand scale. First, to commemorate 3 years of the alliance between the Liu and Chan families. Second, because our joint business project had just passed its preliminary phase and was about to launch, an occasion that needed a proper announcement. It wasn't a holiday, and no elder's birthday was near, so our wedding anniversary dinner was chosen for the event. What Martin and I thought about it didn't matter one bit. Fortunately, we were both practical people, long past our rebellious teenage years. As long as it meant greater benefits for us and our families, we'd cooperate with anything. And if we couldn't, we'd force ourselves to. We'd played the loving couple countless times at social events. We were good at it by now. That day, like always, I was walking down a grand staircase on Martin's arm, smiling sweetly and modestly. Just then, his phone rang. It was an important partner. He asked me to go down first, saying he'd join me soon. I'm a grown woman. I don't need my husband glued to me every second. I gestured for him to take the call. Situations like this didn't faze me. Martin, however, warned me with concern. The heels are high, walk carefully. I shot him a look and replied with disdain. What? Do I look disabled to you? And then I misstepped, right in front of Martin and all the guests. I tumbled down the stairs and blacked out on the spot. When I came to, I was in the hospital. The diagnosis, mild concussion. A few days of rest and I'd be fine. Martin was by my side asking the doctor what he should do. The doctor explained. She may experience nausea, dizziness, vomiting, tinnitus, and even retrograde amnesia. It's possible she won't remember the moment of the accident. When he saw I was awake, he asked me a few questions, then said, "Seems there's no major issue. She remembers what she should, no memory loss. Just some nausea that should pass with a couple days of rest." But I thought there was a problem. A big one. I hadn't lost my memory, but my mind kept flashing with scattered images and scenes. It went on for 5 days. The other symptoms faded, but those strange memories not only stayed, they intensified. Until this morning, when I finally pieced together a full story. If those memories were real, if I was actually living inside a novel, then I had definitely drawn the role of the villainess. Martin is the second male lead, silently harboring love for the protagonist. His younger brother, Paul Liu, is the ex-boyfriend, the classic toxic love-hate guy. His older brother, Joel Liu, is the male lead, a CEO with every desirable trait. I don't know the protagonist personally, but my memories say her name is Diana, a young girl. Modest background, average looks, but hardworking and driven. At this point, Diana has just graduated from university and is in the middle of yet another breakup with Paul. Soon, she'll have an interview at Liu Group, where she'll encounter male lead 1 and male lead 2. And me? From the moment I saw her, I couldn't stand her, especially when every man around me started giving her attention. Blinded by jealousy, I constantly tried to trip her up. A married woman like me, who didn't even love her handsome, kind husband, suddenly developing feelings for her older brother-in-law Joel after 3 years in the Liu family? Joel, staying true to his aloof, loyal character, of course didn't reciprocate. After multiple rejections, I began to hate the protagonist. In a moment of madness, I even tried to seduce her ex, my younger brother-in-law Paul. Seriously? What kind of soap opera-level nonsense is this? Even modern telenovelas aren't this ridiculous. It made no sense at all. It clashed completely with my actual personality. I'm someone who loves money more than life itself. Love? Totally optional. In this social circle, true love is a fantasy. Most of us are like Martin and me, surface-level spouses. A marriage of convenience. Who in their right mind would go looking for true love here? At 20, my family arranged a date. I'd seen Martin Liu 3 times, and the marriage was decided by the elders. We hadn't exchanged more than 100 words before tying the knot. Talking about love was absurd. That said, the Liu brothers are all eye candy. From afar, they're a visual delight. But Joel and Paul aren't my type. One's too serious and dull, the other's impulsive and selfish. Compared to them, my husband's not bad at all. Martin is mostly kind and thoughtful. If we have problems, we talk them through calmly. He's incredibly patient. We get along well in bed too. And best of all, he respects my choices and habits. He never meddles. But he doesn't love me. He married me to further his career. If it hadn't been me, he would have picked another heiress and treated her just the same. He's 100% career-oriented. Love and happily ever after mean nothing to him. On that, we're completely aligned. What fantasy could possibly compare to the security that money brings? So I don't love him either. I don't even feel anything for Martin. How the hell could I be obsessed with Joel Liu? Absolutely absurd. I must have really knocked my head hard. I'll need another checkup. Thinking this, I opened WhatsApp and messaged Martin. Honey, I want fries. Bring me a large one when you get off work. I have zero willpower against junk food. Go a few days without it and I start craving hard. Martin's a very busy man. His time is gold. Not like me, living off his wealth and able to reply instantly. Maybe because I'm a patient now. He didn't keep me waiting long. 3 minutes later, Martin replied. I asked the doctor, and he recommends light food these days. No fried or spicy stuff. Hang in there a bit longer. If your checkup goes well tomorrow, I'll get you whatever you want. I wrote. Then I'll go for the checkup today. I feel totally fine. Martin replied. The appointment's for tomorrow. I'm a bit busy today. No time to go with you. I can go alone. You handle your stuff. Martin didn't like that idea, but relented a little. Let Lisa go with you. I'll call Dr. Jing to reschedule the time. Lisa was the daughter of the head butler at the main Liu residence. After graduating university and failing to find a suitable job, she returned to work as a domestic assistant at the Liu household. Martin and I don't like having strangers at home. Usually, we hire part-time cleaners, no live-ins. But after I got injured, Martin didn't want to take risks with temps, so he personally asked the main residence to send Lisa to take care of me for a while. Lisa was meticulous with her work. She'd grown up in the secondary Liu household and was used to life around the wealthy. Over 20 years in that environment meant she had plenty in common with us. Since I was bored in bed, I often called her over to chat. Given Martin's insistence, I had no choice but to go to the hospital with Lisa. She happily agreed and went off to start the car. Just as I sat down and was buckling my seatbelt, Lisa said from the front seat, "Ma'am, I have a friend who recently graduated from H City University. She was an outstanding student and did an internship at a major firm, where she was highly praised. I heard the eldest young master is without an assistant due to maternity leave and hasn't found a replacement, since they only accept internal recommendations. Would you mind speaking to the second young master and helping her get a chance? In this society, everything moves through connections. Asking favors and leveraging contacts is perfectly normal. I had no clue about company affairs. So the eldest brother needs staff and you're asking my husband to recommend someone?" "Exactly. The eldest young master is away on a trip down south for 2 weeks. He left the decision to the second young master." "Fine. Small matter. I'm not stingy with favors. I'll tell him, but tell your friend to send me her resume if it's just a verbal request." My husband probably won't pay attention. Lisa lit up with joy. Perfect. I'll send it to you after we get back from the hospital. Ma'am, no promises. All right? That's okay, as long as she gets the opportunity. The rest is on her. I paused and asked, "What's your friend's name?" "Oh, her name's Diana." I gave a simple rested my head on my hand, and gazed out the window. My brain, still sluggish, took a while to register. "Wait, what did you say her name was?" Lisa replied cheerfully, "Diana, Diana. I-H-M?" Chapter 2. I was completely taken aback, and after reviewing everything again, I even forgot to buy the fries. As soon as I got home, I urged Lisa to send me Diana's resume. She acted quickly, within 5 minutes. I had a full-color resume in my WhatsApp. In the upper right corner was a half-body photo. The girl in the picture had straight black hair. She wasn't the type to leave jaws dropping, but she was far from plain. Diana had a classic oval face and delicate features. At first glance, she didn't stand out, but when she smiled, 2 small dimples appeared on her cheeks, lighting up her whole face. She was the quiet, graceful type, a beauty that grew on you. Paul Liu, that pampered brat, had never shown interest in flashy or sexy women. This kind of girl was his weakness. No wonder they loved and fought for years. And that Paul, like a mutt, always came crawling back to her. I hesitated whether or not to send the resume to Martin, but generally, I'm someone who keeps her word. Besides, I could never fall for my brother-in-law, so I wouldn't make Diana's life hell out of jealousy. If Martin really did fall for Diana like in my memories, and if the marriage could be preserved, so be it. If not, at least let him benefit from it and get out. Who wants to be part of a love triangle? Especially as the one excluded and discarded. Martin had to work late and didn't come home until after 9 p.m. Lisa had the chef they brought in prepare him something to eat. Then came to let me know, "The second young master is back. Ma'am, would you like to go down to see him?" A subtle reminder of what I had promised. I got out of bed, put on a knitted cardigan, and motioned for her to go about her business. Lisa left with a big smile, apparently. Her relationship with Diana was quite close. When I went down, Martin was already eating. He had the habit of watching financial news while he ate, trying to squeeze every minute. That's how workaholics are. At least Martin Liu found time to get married. His older brother practically lived at the office. He only came home once a month for family dinners, like some mythical beast briefly showing its head. Next year, Joel will turn 30. Seeing the emotional tangle between Diana and the 3 Liu brothers, it's clear she won't end up with him anytime soon. Few 30-year-old bachelors are still in demand, and even fewer are virgins. Martin once told me his older brother had never even been in a relationship, not even a first kiss. At this rate, wouldn't he turn into a wizard? Lost in thought, I sat next to Martin. He put down his tablet and looked at me over his glasses. "What did the doctor say?" "Everything's perfect. I'm fully recovered." "That's good." He looked relieved, his tired face showing a bit of emotion. "You're not short, don't wear such high heels." It was the first time in 5 days that he mentioned that night. I thought he was hinting at something, so I admitted my mistake with good grace. "Sorry, I ruined such an important dinner." "It doesn't matter, health comes first." "What did your grandfather say?" "Not much, just asked how you were." Martin was likely the one bearing the brunt of the Liu family's pressure. Oddly, I hadn't heard anything from the Chan family either, apart from a superficial call from my mother the day I regained consciousness. No one had said a word. In most wealthy families, emotional ties are weak. In the Chan family, they were practically non-existent. Every cent my parents spent on me was an investment. They never did business at a loss. As soon as I reached legal marriage age, they started forcing me into arranged dates. And anyone with less money than the Chans? Not good enough. They were extremely picky. In the end, they managed to snag Martin, a golden son-in-law. During our wedding, both families' elders announced a major joint project. It was placed under Martin's charge, as compensation for sacrificing his marital happiness for the family's gain. Martin agreed to the marriage willingly, obviously not without expecting something in return. As the second son, his position was awkward, an older brother being groomed as heir. and a younger brother who was a pretentious coquette with no ambition. Martin clearly didn't want to follow in the younger's footsteps. On the contrary, he valued his career deeply. Most likely, he wanted more resources from the elders, so he took the shortcut of an arranged marriage. The Liu family's internal relations were fairly harmonious, no serious conflicts between brothers. Now the three of them worked together at the family company, supporting one another as they prepared to take over the massive Liu group. Paul, who used to be a mess, had lost much of his spoiled air after a year learning from his older brothers. He even spoke formally now. The Chan family, meanwhile, was an embarrassing mess. My father had a dozen illegitimate children. With that example, his legitimate children weren't much better. My older brother wasn't even married yet and already had 3 kids. My mother wasn't a saint either. She used my father's money to keep several lovers. In wealthy families, marriages are usually just formal arrangements. Everyone lives their own life, as long as they don't cause trouble for each other. To this day, I haven't met any of my half-siblings. While I mulled over all this, Martin asked, "Have you contacted your family?" "No. Try to make time to visit them. They're worried about you." As if what they worried about was the incident's negative impact. My personal well-being didn't matter one bit. In those strange memories I had, after divorcing Martin, they didn't even let me in the house. They left me to fend for myself, to force me to apologize to Diana and beg the forgiveness of the 3 Liu brothers. My father revoked my trust fund and froze my cards. With what little I had left, I moved to a rundown little city. I got mugged, robbed of everything. In the dead of winter, I died of starvation in a rented room. The Chan family sent some random person to collect my body. I was cremated and my ashes scattered in a field. With that kind of love, there's no reason to keep ties. When I married Martin, my father gave me a generous fund as a dowry, the same one he later took away. That was the last thing I ever received from the Chan family. A final reward for my contribution. A married daughter is like spilled water. To them, I wasn't important. To me, they weren't either. I didn't continue the topic. After a few taps on my phone, I forwarded the resume. "I heard your older brother needs staff. Lisa has a friend who just graduated. Decent background. Take a look." Martin couldn't hide his surprise. He knew I normally didn't care about company matters, but he quickly figured it out. "Lisa asked you to give it to me?" "She just mentioned it. All she wants is a chance at an interview. Whether she gets hired or not, that's up to you. She's well informed about the company. She works at the main house. She must hear things." Martin Liu smiled vaguely and began reading the resume. The company's HR department filtered applications. Any that made it to him were already in the final round, typically top talent. As he read, Martin frowned. "This resume is sloppily done," he said, "but the work experience is relevant. I didn't care about the outcome. Do what you think's right. I only promised Lisa I'd mention it. She can have the interview. But if this exact resume lands on HR's desk, it'll be a waste of time. They go through hundreds a day, and this won't catch their eye. Aren't they all like this? It's too casual, doesn't highlight key points. Assistants working close to top execs need to draft documents and contracts. If she can't even write a good resume, how can she do the job? So much nitpicking now. And when she messes something up, aren't you the one who'll have to fix it?" I thought it, but didn't say it. Chapter 3. After confirming Diana's basic information and appearance, I was almost certain those memories that kept surfacing in my mind were 90% real. As a husband, Martin actually seemed quite decent. If I had a choice, I'd rather not end up getting divorced. But then I remembered that blank face of his as he threw the divorce papers onto the table. And in that instant, I crushed that idea and stomped on it without mercy. There might not be many 3-legged toads in the world, but there are plenty of 2-legged men. After all, it was a loveless marriage. Now that I've got a solid little private fund of my own, getting divorced wouldn't change much. I'd still be living in style. If the need really arose, I could follow my mom's example, pay a couple of guys I liked. No commitments, no constant socializing. Delightful. All right. I'll tell Lisa to ask her friend to redo the resume. I'll send you the internal email. Tell Lisa to tell her friend to put me down as a reference. That way she's sure to make it through the first round. I did what he asked. And within moments, Everything was settled. Lisa thanked me profusely over WhatsApp. With that handled, I started feeling drowsy. I stood up and stretched. I'm heading to the bedroom. Don't work too late, Martin asked. Are you sure you're not feeling unwell at all? Absolutely sure. He nodded. Then can we go back to sleeping together? I was surprised. The yes almost slipped out. But then Diana's smile vaguely floated into my mind's eye. So I changed course and replied, let me adjust my schedule for a few days. Lately I've been waking up in the middle of the night. I don't want to disturb your rest. Martin said it was fine. I don't sleep much anyway. It won't affect me. It does affect you. Not sleeping with you is what affects me. What was that? I was speechless. I shot back. How can someone who wants to achieve great things let himself get distracted by a woman? Martin seemed to find me amusing. His eyes sparkled with a smile. I'm used to sleeping with you. Or are you trying to imply something? What kind of brazen comment was that? Do I look like the type of woman that desperate? Although, if in the future he really becomes infatuated with Diana and we end up divorcing, could I ever find another man of this caliber again? Honestly, I wasn't sure. Seeing I didn't respond, Martin quickly added, just kidding, you're still recovering. I wouldn't do anything with you. No. I leaned in and kissed his forehead. You didn't say anything wrong. In fact, I was implying something. Martin froze for a second. Then he smiled, put down his utensils, and pulled me onto his lap. My back rested against his chest, and I could feel his suppressed laughter vibrating in his ribcage. What are you laughing at? I asked, half annoyed, half embarrassed. He rested his chin on my shoulder, nuzzling like a puppy. You were right too. I do let myself get carried away by women. A lot. Maybe because I was still recovering. Martin didn't push things further. After helping me wash up, he returned to his study to keep working. After that little episode, I wasn't sleepy anymore, so I lay in bed checking my phone. My plastic friend Zoe had messaged me privately, sending several photos. Shocking! Rich boy Paul Lou kisses Cinderella in the middle of the street. Seriously, live long enough and you'll see everything. Looks like the girls from a poor background. A friend of mine who studies at H City University saw Paul chasing her around like a simp several times. They dated for a bit, but she couldn't stand the spoiled prince attitude and broke it off. Then he chased her again. They broke up again, like 10 times, apparently. This time they hadn't contacted each other in over 3 months. Everyone thought it was over for good, but look, Paul's still not giving up. She looks pretty average to me. No money, no connections. Do you think your mother-in-law's going to let Paul keep tangling with her? Aw, she was digging for gossip. I replied, I've no idea. My relationship with Paul is superficial. We've barely exchanged words. Zoe didn't buy it, but he always calls you second sister-in-law in public with that respectful tone. And now it turns out he's such a mess behind closed doors? A mess? That's putting it mildly. The first time I went to dinner at Martin's parents' house, that kid showed up late, wearing a motorcycle jacket and flaming red hair. Didn't even greet the guests at the table, and the disdain in his eyes made it look like marrying his brother was a shameless act of gold digging. There are plenty of people like that in our circle. I always keep my distance. Who wants unnecessary drama? Paul isn't someone who doesn't know how to behave. He just doesn't care about other people's feelings. That said, if he does care about you, he'll do anything for you, literally. But I'm the villain in this story. Why would I get special treatment? Just keeping up appearances is already a lot. I remember once, fed up with the female lead, I threw coffee on her. Paul didn't care what his brother thought. And back then, Martin probably didn't think much of me either. Paul faked a medical report and tried to get me thrown in jail. It didn't work. But the ending was even worse. I died young. I admit, that version of me deserved a good earful, but not death. As a villain, I was one of the most mediocre ones. The worst I did was say nasty things, glare at people, no real actions, no criminal thoughts, and I ended up picking food out of the trash? Ridiculous. All because I got obsessed with the male lead and tried to take what belonged to the heroine. And her? She didn't settle for less. She had all 3 Lou brothers wrapped around her finger. Even if she didn't promise any of them anything, they were all willing to stay by her side. Paul was one thing, fine, but Martin. Martin had serious needs in that department. Expecting him to stay celibate for a woman he could only admire from afar sounded unrealistic. And yet, that's exactly what's happening. Diana appeared in my life. Paul really was with her. If she can conquer the untouchable Joel and turn the impulsive Paul into a loyal puppy, then she might actually make Martin Lu go celibate like a monk, and drive me crazy with jealousy in the process. What era are we even living in? Who joins a rich family looking for true love? And yet, she found it. Sure, it happens, but it's rare, exceptionally rare. Zoe, with her gossip-loving soul, sent me another message. Breaking, the rich boy kissed Cinderella out of jealousy. He suspects his own big brother is trying to steal her. Chapter 4. What? What? I sat up with a jolt, unable to resist my curiosity. Tell me properly. Ha, I knew you'd be interested. The ancient dry tree has bloomed. Someone saw Joel Lu having lunch alone with that girl. They were getting along great, and Paul Lu caught them in the act. It didn't add up. Joel's on a business trip. Zoe, that happened a few days ago, but I just got the pictures today, so the leads had already met before. Still, something didn't make sense. Since my head injury, sometimes I react quickly, sometimes agonizingly slow. This was one of those painfully slow moments. When Martin finished working and came into the room, seeing him finally made it click. Diana had already made direct contact with Joel. Then why go through Lisa to get a recommendation from Martin? It didn't add up. In H City, among the big companies, only one is owned by a Lu family. The 3 Lu brothers have names in genealogical order. Diana had dated Paul, so there's no way she wasn't familiar with the family setup. On one hand, she wanted to break up with him. On the other, she was trying every angle to get into her ex's company. What was she playing at? Some master plan? Surely all this wasn't just to send me to the grave, right? Truthfully, there are plenty of well-born young women who end up as side characters, but as far as I know, I'm the only one who died in such a pathetic way. Martin got into bed and hugged me out of habit. Still awake? His voice sounded tired. I nestled against his shoulder and showed him the photo Zoe had sent. Does this girl look familiar? Martin looked at it closely before saying, the one from the resume? Yeah, Zoe says your brother dated her. And what did you think? Huh? Martin pointed at the couple mid-passionate kiss on the street. You think a normal relationship would do this in public? Okay, fair point. I scrolled through the chat messages for him to read. They say Paul got mad because he saw her eating alone with your older brother. What do you think? My brother? Martin had the same question I did. So she knows both my older and younger brother. Yet she comes to me for an interview? Maybe she's just really eager to join the company. Martin made a complicated expression. He looked at me silently for half a minute. His gaze soft, and stroked my hair. I'm taking you in for another checkup tomorrow. I gave him a deadpan look. Are you calling me dumb? No. How could my wife be dumb? Humph. Martin chuckled and kissed my cheek. Sleep. We'll talk tomorrow. Ugh. In the end, it's their business. Why should I be breaking my head over it? Once I thought it through, I fluffed my pillow, adjusted the blanket, and lay down. Martin turned off the lights and reached out for me in the dark. He loved sleeping while hugging me. Honestly, it wasn't comfortable. I'd complained 1,000 times to no avail. And this was supposed to be a marriage just for show. Yet somehow it all felt real. The next day was a weekend. Martin was off work and staying home. It was rare for him to sleep in with me. We didn't get up until the sun was high. Martin Lu was a man of action. He called Lisa directly at the breakfast table. Is Diana your friend? Lisa said yes. And she was with the third one? Martin's tone was neutral, but firm. I could clearly sense Lisa tense up. They dated for a while, broke up a few months ago. How long were they together? Since the third young master's third year in university. Almost 3 years. Martin was peeling an egg while he continued. What did she tell you? Lisa didn't follow. About what? About joining the company. She said the Lu Group has always been her goal. She'd submitted her resume through the website twice and got rejected. I work at the main house. And last week the eldest young master came for dinner. I overheard him talking to Grandpa about hiring a new assistant. It seemed like a good opportunity. So I asked if I could recommend a friend. He said to ask you. Since you're in charge. Lisa spoke quickly, like she was afraid pausing would make her look suspicious. I saw sweat forming on her forehead. She didn't seem to be hiding anything. So it had been Lisa's idea? Martin placed the egg on my plate. Still calm. She knows the third works in the company, right? She does. That's why she didn't apply to his department. My older brother, has he seen her? Lisa looked up, puzzled. I don't know. Diana never mentioned it. Martin gave her a light glance. Lisa straightened up like a soldier at attention. How did you meet her? I also graduated from H City University. She was my junior. We were in the student council together. Same department. Diana was very capable. And since her family had financial difficulties, I often helped her out. How much did the third give her? Lisa froze for a second, a flash of anger in her eyes. But she didn't dare confront Martin. Her voice only shifted slightly. My friend's not that kind of person. It was the third young master who chased her relentlessly. At the time, she was busy with school and a part-time job. She wasn't even thinking about dating. Martin let out a sarcastic chuckle. So the third was quite shameless. Lisa fell silent, her energy drained. That's not what I meant. It's fine. I won't press further. Last question. Martin pulled out a wet wipe and calmly cleaned his hands. How long after they met did they start dating? Lisa replied. 1 month. Martin let out an aha. He really was persistent. Lisa picked up on the irony but didn't dare answer. She closed her lips and waited in silence. Martin had said it was the last question, and he kept his word. He let her go back to her work. I'd watched the whole scene, still confused. That's it? Just like that? What more do you want to know? Felt like he was teasing me for being slow again. So what did you figure out? Nothing yet. We need to ask the third and see if their stories line up. You suspect Diana got close to Paul on purpose? There are plenty of girls like that. I started to think. The female leads in novels are usually sincere and kind, not the type to play dirty. Don't you think you're being dramatic? Martin poured a glass of milk and placed it in front of me. Drink more. It's good for you. You're unbearable. Chapter 5. After breakfast. Just as I expected. Martin Liu went to the study to call Paul. I bet he also called Joel Liu. I don't know what his brothers told him, but when he came out, he looked upset. I didn't ask anything. It was later at night, when we were going to bed, that he brought it up himself. The third one told me he was the one who pursued her. Diana wasn't entirely willing. For 3 years they argued, broke up, got back together. Diana says being with him drains her, that he's too immature. A little. Yes. I remembered the first time I saw Paul with that loud red hair and his absolute lack of social skills, and mentally nodded hard. My brother invited her to lunch to thank her. That day his car broke down and he'd left his phone at the office. Diana happened to walk by, lent him her phone to make a call. It was lunchtime, so he invited her as a courtesy. See? Just as I had guessed. Heroines with main character aura don't need to play tricks. In my memories, Diana was always a diligent young woman with clear goals, putting personal grudges aside. She was definitely better than me, a kept woman with no aspirations. In love, though, she was a complete disaster. But that's not her fault. All men who see her become infatuated. Look at Martin. He suspected her for no reason, and once he confirmed it was all a misunderstanding, his expression changed immediately. The image of Diana in his mind turned more positive, and love began to creep in. Compared to the immature child that Paul is, Diana, with her simple background, would be a better match for men like Joel or Martin, who are mature and stable. If I weren't occupying the position of Mrs. Liu, Diana would probably be leaning more toward Martin. Joel has his own merits, of course, but he doesn't know how to connect with people. I remember how, when he accompanied Diana to visit her parents, he acted just as cold and expressionless, earning the disapproval of her in-laws. Sigh. I let out a long breath. Martin immediately looked at me. Why are you sighing? It's just, everyone's got it rough. Me, forced into marriage by family pressure. Martin, forced to marry for family interests. Diana just wanted to make money without trying to fall in love, and still ended up entangled in a romantic mess. But the most miserable one is me. After all, Martin only lost love. I lost my life. Martin said nothing. He gave me a strange look and silently peeled another egg for me. Misunderstanding cleared. Diana successfully got the interview opportunity. Lisa told me her performance in the first round was excellent, and she made it to the second. How many interviews are there in total? I asked. 2. The second would be conducted personally by Martin Liu. The story between the heroine and the second male lead was about to begin. I was rocking in a chair, enjoying the breeze, feeling relaxed. Everything was unfolding naturally. I couldn't stop it, nor did I intend to, especially because there was no reason to stop it. I don't love Martin. I don't want Joel, and I'm certainly not about to flirt with Paul. I have zero interest in male leads 4, 5, 6, or 7, whom I don't even know. Even if Martin were to throw divorce papers on the table right now, I wouldn't even blink before signing them. At most, I'd ask for a slightly higher financial settlement. Martin isn't stingy. Every month he gives me an allowance in the 6 or 7 figures, and occasionally gifts luxury items to create a romantic atmosphere. As long as there's no love, there's no problem. I don't seek trouble, but trouble finds me. I have a rather stable temperament in private. I rarely argue with anyone, and almost no one comes to cause me trouble, except Paul, that damn limitlessly clueless man. I was living my rich lady life, eating well and dressing better. One day, I was getting ready to go have tea with my plastic friends. When I opened the door, Paul was standing there, with cigarette butts scattered all over the ground at his feet. I frowned without hiding it. 22 years old, and still so uncouth. He despises me. I despise him. It's been 3 years of mutual disgust. He usually doesn't show up at my house, but when he does, he always brings that dead fish face to ruin my mood. What do you want? I snapped. With no courtesy, Paul tossed the still-burning cigarette to the ground and stomped on it. Where's my brother? He's not here. I know he's not here. I'm asking where he is now. How should I know? He's not a prisoner, and I'm not his warden tracking his every move. Paul flared up even more. Without warning, he punched the door right behind me. The door was fine. It was a high-end security door, but Paul's knuckles did bleed a little. This damn violent guy. He's the one who should be in jail. I shoved him. A guy nearly 6'3" didn't even budge. I shoved again. This time he stepped back 2 paces on his own. You come to throw a tantrum at my door? If you're sick, go see a doctor. Maybe Paul realized he'd gone too far. When he spoke again, his tone was calmer. My brother didn't sleep at home last night. Did he? No. So what? Do you know who he was with? Of course I do. He was out cultivating romance with the heroine. What else would he be doing? I looked at the fool in front of me, and suddenly felt a little sorry for him. You broke up with your ex. Fine. Took you a day or 2 to get over it. But a year or 2 and you're still stuck. In this circle, going from I want to I have is just a matter of opening your mouth. The women around him are plenty. What kind isn't within reach? But he just had to fall for Diana. And not only that, she also snagged his 2 brothers. Now it's complicated. Paul Liu is not like me, who can settle the world with a full wallet. He grew up in luxury, pampered by elders. He never worried about money or the future. For him, what matters isn't what you can touch, but those intangible things like love or hate. I patted his shoulder to comfort him. When it's time to let go, let go. Clinging will only hurt you more. Paul looked at me, surprised by my I've seen it all expression. You know everything? No? I've even seen the future. Total enlightenment. Paul looked at me like he'd seen a ghost. And you, woman, you're not even a little sad? Sad for what? I shrugged. Indifferent. Do you know what a marriage of convenience is? You thought I wasn't worthy of your brother. But in reality, it was exactly because our families were evenly matched that I became Mrs. Liu. Both your brother and I have benefited a lot from this. We, in this circle, put interest first. Those childish relationships of you love me and I love you mean absolutely nothing to us. Chapter 6. Paul stayed silent for quite a while. Does my brother know? Know what? What you think? I sighed. This guy really is hopeless. Things that everyone already knows. What's the point in saying them out loud? So, do you also have someone else? Not at the moment. But I've never thought of myself as being low on market value. What's the difficulty? I'm young, rich, beautiful, with a killer body. If I went looking for a gigolo, he'd probably want to pay me. Paul was visibly stunned, staring at me in disbelief. You grew up in this environment. Don't you know how people like us live? I couldn't help giving him a lesson. These things are super common, of course. Just because they're common doesn't make them right. But if you insist on being with Diana, do you really think your parents and grandfather would accept her? Paul looked down without answering. Your older brother has worked like an ant for nearly 10 years. Now he's someone who can handle massive responsibilities. Your second brother chose a marriage that benefited the family and oversees several successful projects. Compared to them, what do you have? What would a girl see in you? That you've got a bad temper? That you're immature? Tell me, if you compete with them, what's your edge? That you're the youngest? You think they'll let you win because of that? I shook my head, smiling. Don't be naive, Paul. Your eldest brother is sharp and efficient. He almost never makes bad decisions. My husband's a wolf in sheep's clothing, extremely cunning. If you're going to go up against them, you're seriously overestimating yourself. Paul, clearly discouraged by my words, turned around awkwardly and rushed toward the elevator, pressing the down button hard. The girls were already messaging me, hurrying me along. I slung my backpack over one shoulder and approached. Paul, alarmed, stepped aside with a jump and warned sternly, "Don't follow me." I burst out laughing like I'd just heard the best joke of the day. I looked him up and down with disdain, the same expression he gave me when we first met. Don't flatter yourself. Who would want to follow you? The elevator arrived. I got in first. Paul hesitated for a couple seconds but eventually got in too. He huddled into one corner, staying as far away from me as possible. I ignored him completely, lowered my gaze, and started examining my nails. When we reached the first floor, with a ding, the elevator doors opened, and there was my husband, standing right in front of us. He hadn't come home the night before. He looked at me first, then glanced at Paul. His expression instantly turned cold and dark. "I've got a meeting," I said first. Stepping out of the elevator ready to leave, Martin grabbed my arm, but his gaze was on Paul. "What did you say to your sister-in-law?" Paul stepped out too and faced his brother. That usual arrogant attitude of his was nowhere to be seen. Still, he was clearly upset, and his tone was cold. "Did you do something so bad it can't be talked about?" "Listen to that. How childish." "Yep, that's definitely Paul." Martin didn't get angry, but it was obvious he was in a foul mood. "I told you it was a misunderstanding. If you don't believe me, ask Miss Diana. Asterisk, you don't have to believe me," he added sarcastically. "But surely you believe her, right? After all, you love her so much." Paul clenched his fists and took a deep breath. "I saw it with my own eyes. You were hugging and laughing together." Wow, things escalated quickly. Hadn't Diana only been working at the company for a few months? And they were already hugging? What a scoop I'd just stumbled into. I wasn't even in a rush to leave anymore. Why bother with those fake friends? Martin Liu turned to me, eyes steady. "Do you believe him?" I didn't know what face to make. We were a couple of convenience. What did it matter if I believed him or not? Paul shouted, his voice cracking. "I saw it with my own eyes. I already explained it to you. You just wouldn't listen. Seeing is believing." Martin let out a dry laugh. "And now I see you coming down with your sister-in-law. Does that mean I have the right to suspect something between you two?" Then he answered himself. "No, your sister-in-law would never look at someone like you." I don't know which part of that hurt Paul the most, but suddenly tears welled up in his eyes. He shot a hateful look at his brother and stormed off without looking back. "Aren't you going after him?" I asked. Martin said there was no need. The youngest needed time to cool off on his own. "Who are you meeting?" "Zoe and the others. One of the girls just came back to the country and invited us to a get-together. Can't you cancel?" Was he trying to talk seriously with me? I had no intention of getting involved in their mess. I shook my head without hesitation. "No, I'm not the type to break promises." Martin gave a faint smile and took my hand. "Then I'll drive you." We didn't speak the entire drive. I didn't ask anything. Martin didn't say anything. Just as I was about to get out of the car, he grabbed my hand. "Jenny, Do you trust me? With that sincere expression, I almost felt bad saying I didn't care. I suppose I do. I've never done anything to let you down. Not before. Not now. And I never will. Ah, this. Why was he saying this? And with such a serious face? I scratched my head. Martin, remember our marriage was a convenience arrangement? Chapter 7. I'm not exactly sure what I said wrong. The moment I finished speaking, Martin stared at me for a full 3 minutes. He'd been in a bad mood since we saw each other today, and now it seemed to have hit rock bottom. But even so, he didn't explode. If he could control his temper with a disaster like Paul, there was no reason to lose it with me. I waited a bit, and seeing he still didn't say anything, I unbuckled my seatbelt and got out of the car. I slammed the door shut. Through the half-open window, I saw Martin still looking at me. His expression was complicated. I couldn't quite describe what I felt. He looked deeply hurt, incredulous, even slightly wounded. That's how men are. They eat from one plate but keep glancing at the pot. He likes another woman, but still wants me to keep playing the part of the sweet, understanding wife. Martin has always known how to pursue his own benefit. Now is not a good time for a divorce. Our two families just announced a billion-dollar project. If news of a separation broke now, it would cause a negative impact. He's not like Paul, who lives and dies for love. For Martin, the most important thing is his career. These past 3 years, my role as the wife of a powerful family might have lived easy, eat, drink, and enjoy life. But in reality, I wasn't some decorative wife who did nothing. Being a socialite means belonging to a circle, and that circle brings connections and influence. Sometimes, at events where men can't attend, their wives are required to represent them and manage family ties. Many business deals are secured thanks to those social interactions between wives. Some words, when spoken by the one who shares your bed, carry twice the weight. I've attended many such events and secured quite a few valuable contacts for Martin Liu. Of course, the Liu family holds a high status. At those events, I'm always treated like a star. I don't need to flatter anyone, but I also never neglect what's expected of me. To this day, I'm still the most suitable person to be Mrs. Liu. Martin is probably just interested in Diana, not yet obsessed. Diana, given her background, will need time and energy to adapt to the social world of high society wives, where people talk through masks and smile with hidden fangs. It's logical that Martin doesn't want me to leave just yet. Once I understood all this, the turmoil in my chest settled. Don't worry, I said to reassure him. At least for now, we have the same goals. He's brought me into several promising projects. They haven't paid off yet. Why would I break ties with him now? Besides, breaking off a marriage alliance between two powerful families is complicated. The elders are a massive obstacle. And then there's the division of assets that won't be resolved in less than 3 to 5 months. Martin's expression worsened. He was frowning so hard it looked like he could squash a fly between his brows. I waved him off and turned to leave. Jenny, he called from behind, using my full name. Since we got married, it was the first time he did that. He usually calls me wife or Jenny-chan. I stopped on instinct. His hoarse voice said, "Is your heart made of stone?" When I turned around to look at him, he had already started the engine and driven off. And what does that mean? Because I didn't throw a crazy fit. He thinks I don't care and now he's hurt. Please! If other men in the circle heard their wives say something like that, they'd be laughing in their dreams. Does my husband have a different kind of brain or what? These men, young and in the prime of their careers, are always surrounded by temptations. Sometimes, to seal a deal, you have to bring male and female escorts. They say it's for business, but who knows what they're really doing? Wasn't he the one who didn't come home last night? He sent a vague message saying he was working late, and this morning Paul showed up at my door with a betrayed expression, like he was about to accuse me of failing to keep my husband in line. If they weren't brothers, with Paul's temper, he would have definitely punched him twice by now. That's what I thought. After my tea gathering, I returned home alone by taxi. What I found was Paul with a swollen lip. Martin was sitting on the couch, his face gloomy. On the table, a laptop connected to the front gate surveillance cameras was playing the footage of Paul punching the door. Paul was sitting on the floor, getting scolded like a child. When I walked in, he gave me a red-eyed look. then glanced awkwardly at his brother. Grudgingly, he stood and gave me a 90-degree bow. I'm sorry, sis-in-law. I was an idiot. I shouldn't have spoken to you that way, used violence, or said those stupid things. I took off my shoes at the door, walked into the living room, and headed straight for the stairs. Next time you have an outburst, don't come to me. Paul ran to block me. I glanced up at him from under my lashes. He looked uncomfortable, eyes on the floor. I talked to Diana, checked the company's surveillance. The floor had just been mopped and was slippery. Diana nearly fell, and my brother just held her up to keep her from falling. While talking, he grabbed the laptop and showed me another video. Look, sis-in-law, I'm not lying. The footage shows it clearly. My brother only held her briefly and let go. The whole thing lasted less than 10 seconds. What a coincidence. Less than 10 seconds, and you just happened to walk by. I must have had it written all over my face, because Paul ran a hand through his hair, looking embarrassed. I was impulsive. I only saw it from afar, misunderstood everything, and blew up without thinking. I dragged both you and my brother into this mess. I sneered. You really like that girl, huh? You see her having lunch with your brother and already get jealous. Kiss her by force. What's it been? Not even a week? And now you're causing drama again. His tone softened, more sincere this time. I really am sorry, sis-in-law. If you want to hit me until you feel better, go ahead. Don't count on it. I don't want you falsifying evidence later and trying to get me jailed again. I don't have violent tendencies. Thanks. I tried to walk around him, but he blocked me again, begging me to at least watch the full video. As he said, it was just an accidental physical contact. What he'd called laughing and talking intimately was actually Diana thanking Martin, and Martin saying it was nothing. In what kind of warped mind does that look like a romantic scene? I was speechless. I even felt like inviting him to get a mental health evaluation. Martin still hadn't spoken since I got back. He hadn't looked me in the eye once. He was probably still angry. I don't think I said anything wrong. I only told the truth. If he can't accept that, how is he going to achieve success? Paul, still worried, tugged on my sleeve. Sis-in-law, please don't fight with my brother over this. It's my fault. This guy is so strange. I explained everything to him in great detail this morning, and it seemed like he didn't get any of it. Now he blindly obeys Diana and comes to play mediator between us, a couple in a marriage of convenience. I was exhausted. Going out had drained me. I replied with a few half-hearted gave him a gentle push, and this time he stepped aside without resisting. I'm going to take a nap. If you two want to talk or fight, do it outside. Don't wreck the house. Paul nodded obediently. Martin didn't say a word to me. These types who rarely get angry, when they do, they really do. I'm not giving in. Today it was a misunderstanding. What about tomorrow? Or the day after? I don't want to end up dead in a foreign land at such a young age. Even though those things haven't happened yet, I remember them clearly. I have no desire to live through them for real. In this world, apart from money, nothing and no one is worth fighting over. In time, Martin Liu will probably even thank me. Having such a reasonable wife like me is a blessing. While walking up the stairs, I glanced back out of habit, and saw Martin still staring at me. I gave him a forced smile. I wanted to show with my actions that I wasn't affected. I couldn't see his expression clearly, nor he mine, so I didn't bother. I went straight to the bedroom. Chapter 8. Martin had to return to work. After scolding his brother, he took him straight to the office. I slept for an hour, and when I woke up, I ordered fries and skewers. Lisa and the chef had already left. I was home alone. Most of the time, I enjoy being alone. Total freedom, without anyone telling me what to do or not to do. Before, when Martin was home, he didn't control me much, but since the incident, he's been more concerned about my condition and occasionally reminds me of things. They hadn't taken the laptop. It was still in the living room, with nothing better to do. I turned it on and watched all the saved footage. Then, with agonizing slowness, the realization hit me. Could Martin have overheard everything I said to Paul? I quickly calmed down. Better if he heard it. Some things aren't said directly, but if the other person picks up on them, a lot of awkward situations can be avoided. Zoe, always in the know, who had seen me just this morning, was already bombarding me with messages. What happened with the spoiled brat and your husband? Did the brothers actually fight? Photo, look. Did your husband do that injury on the brat's face? Oh my god. Sis. I feel for you. And who's that girl? Isn't it enough to flirt with the eldest and the brat? Now she's after a married man too? How desperate is she? So young and already playing so hard, is she trying to snag all three Liu brothers or what? She came to laugh at my misfortune. And what's so funny about it? You're destined to be the evil antagonist too. You'll see, when Diana gets close to your Prince Charming. Let's see if you're still laughing. Things were progressing faster than I expected. Because Zoe's next message said her crush had just added another girl. That man who used to take hours to reply with a single emoji was now checking his phone every 5 minutes. I laughed coldly. Truly sorry for you. Look, at least when things go bad for me, Martin gives me money. What does your crush give you besides disdainful looks? Zoe was pragmatic. As if I actually like that jerk. Don't lie. I know you're crying on the inside right now. Suddenly, Zoe sent me a whole HD studio photo set. Check this out. My new target just debuted. Fresh off the market. Looking for a sponsor. Good rates. Hee. I took a look. Not bad looking. Honestly. I asked her, how much per month? Zoe sent me a sticker of a little doll with her hands on her hips. Not expensive. He's new. Doesn't dare ask for much. 1 million a month. He's got some colleagues at similar prices. She tried to persuade me. Interested? I'll introduce you. No. Thanks. I have a husband, and physically, he's doing just fine. Zoe, with a sarcastic tone. Lucky you. Even in a marriage of convenience, you landed a hunk like Martin. My parents are out looking for a husband for me now. You don't even want to know. It's enough to make you cry. And back to the topic she went. So, what really happened between your husband and the brat? Did they actually fight over Cinderella? Dirty laundry stays in the house. And Zoe is a blabbermouth. I made something up. Paul was disrespectful toward me. My husband just taught him a lesson. Yeah, right. You don't know what it's like to have a husband who loves you. Zoe joked. Wait. I'm taking a screenshot of that. When Martin cheats on you, I'll post it online and drag you through the mud. I didn't even flinch. Go ahead. If he dares to cheat, he better have a big check ready. I'll walk away rich and go find myself a young guy who adores me. You'll be green with envy. Zoe and I are different, but we both share a love for money. As soon as the topic came up, her tone shifted. She swore that if either of us ever made it big, we wouldn't forget the other. Following his elder brother's example, Martin Liu spent a whole week sleeping in the office lounge. No calls. No messages. Like he was determined not to give in. I didn't mind. I lived my life peacefully at home. When he was home, I used to complain he wouldn't let me sleep with all his hugging. But when he wasn't, I missed having someone to hold me at night. Humans are never satisfied. At another gossip session with my friends, Zoe brought her new lover. In photos, he looked way better. In person, a bit lacking, but he had a good personality and managed to make Zoe laugh. When we said goodbye, Zoe snuck up to me and slipped a card into my purse, telling me to open it at home. She loves her little mysteries. It wasn't worth fighting over something so silly, so I accepted. When I got home, I saw Martin's shoes at the entrance. He finally decided to come back. Who knows how far things have progressed with Diana this week. My relationship with Paul isn't great, but we're still WhatsApp contacts. That brat posted that he'd been working overtime every day lately. Not like him at all. Must be to impress his crush. Martin stayed at the office all week. His older brother went on another trip. Perfect timing. Maybe things progressed over there. And he remembered my words, realized how understanding and cooperative I am as a wife, and decided to reconcile. But I was 99% wrong. When I got to the bedroom, I went to the closet to put away my purse. I didn't place it well, it fell, and some things spilled out. Zoe's card hit the floor, slid a bit, and landed right in front of the bathroom door. The door opened, and Martin walked out shirtless, wearing only gray sweatpants. He had a towel around his neck and bent down to pick up the card. His face immediately turned pitch black. My heart stopped. Simon? He spat the name coldly, then looked at me. I rushed to look at the card. Dear God, it wasn't a card. It was a sexy, provocative photo of a half-naked man. On the back was his name, phone number, and a flirty note. Miss Chan, I've admired you for a long time. Awaiting your reply. Zoe. You traitor. You got me into trouble. I was fuming, pacing in place, fists clenched. Martin leaned against the wall with his arms crossed and said coldly, Not going to explain this? That's not mine. I threw the photo to the floor in outrage. I'm not into that type. And seriously, do you think I'd be so vulgar as to cheat behind your back? If I were going to do something, I'd do it in broad daylight. Martin. Sarcastic. So, if you went looking for someone else, you'd at least give me a heads up? If you think that's necessary, I could be flexible, but it's not like I was desperate. One Martin Liu was more than enough for me. He clearly didn't like that answer, and he made sure I noticed. He was very good at hiding emotions. No matter how badly things went outside, he was always composed at home. In 3 years, he almost never showed bad moods in front of me. Not that he didn't have them, he just chose not to show them. So if I was feeling it now, it meant he wanted me to feel it. I got a little nervous and tried to fix it. Do you really think I'd look for someone else? Do I seem like that kind of woman? How could you think so poorly of your own wife? Martin looked at me for a few seconds, said nothing, then pointed at the photo on the floor with his chin. Where did that come from? A friend gave it to me. Which friend? I shook my head. Not going to say? Why so many questions? Martin fired back with another question. Where were you today? Having tea with some friends. Your usual friends? Martin raised an eyebrow. Zoe? I instinctively shook my head. Don't start. It's someone you don't know. Martin was quiet for a moment and asked, Were there any men? A few. They came with their boyfriends. Boyfriends? He repeated softly, mockingly. Boyfriends with a monthly salary? I kicked the photo away from my sight. Please, isn't that common in our circle? Why the big fuss? Was it that Simon guy? No. I think he doesn't have a sponsor yet. It was one of his colleagues. I reaffirmed. I don't like that type. All their photos are filtered and edited. In person, they're worthless. Martin caught the implication. So if the guy was actually good-looking, you would like him? 7 days apart. And now my husband was turning into a full-blown debate coach. No point arguing. I grabbed his arm and let him out. When did you get back? Have you eaten? Martin didn't resist. I led him to the study next door. You probably have a lot of work pending. Get to it so you don't stay up late. I'll order food. What do you want? Anything's fine. All right. I'm hopping in the shower. When the food arrives, open the door. I turned to leave, but when I looked back, Martin was following me. I pushed him back. Okay. Wait here. I'll tell the delivery guy to leave it at the door. I'll pick it up after I shower. Martin said. I want to shower too. Didn't you just do that? No, I only took off my clothes when I heard noise. I came out. Oh. Then shower in the guest room? Wanting to de-escalate, I offered. Actually, use the main bathroom. I'll use the other one. Martin shook his head. Together. Huh? He repeated. Together. Chapter 9. Martin lied to me. When he carried me out of the bathroom, I clearly saw his work suit in the laundry basket, but I didn't call him out on it. As the saying goes, couples' arguments should stay in bed. Besides, Martin was obviously in a much better mood now. He started nuzzling against me like a puppy again, no gentleness at all, just throwing his full weight on top of me. I could barely breathe. I pushed him with my hand, but he didn't budge. Tried again. Nothing. Instead of moving, he bit my neck in protest. Don't move. Let me hold you for a while. You've been holding me for a while. Not enough. I sighed in resignation. Martin hugged me even tighter. I've been living in the office all week. Sleeping without you was miserable. I chuckled. And before we got married, how did you manage then? Martin was breathing deeply into my hair, completely relaxed. This man, Could it be that he actually likes me? The thought startled me. My heart skipped a beat, and I discreetly withdrew the arms I'd wrapped around his waist. Martin didn't allow it. For once, he showed an almost childish stubbornness. Hold me, Jenny. I want you to hug me tight. I had no choice but to wrap my arms around him again. No way. Is Martin in love with me? I remembered that day in the car, when he told me he'd never betray me, then asked if my heart was made of stone. The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. But if Martin loves me, what happens to the story? The male lead is Joel, the female lead is Diana, the second lead is also for Diana, and the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth all revolve around her. How could any of them love someone else? I'm the villainess. Has Martin gone off script? Or am I the mistake? I couldn't stop wondering. Meanwhile, his soft voice whispered in my ear, "Wife, after a week without seeing you, did you miss me? Even a little?" That pampered tone sounded both unfamiliar and strangely familiar. Now that we were finally getting along again, I didn't want to ruin it. Yes, I missed you. How much? So much I couldn't sleep at night. Liar. Martin gave a muffled laugh. I saw how well you were living. Where? Without you at home. I couldn't eat or sleep properly. I was miserable. Then why didn't you text me? You were busy, weren't you? He scoffed in disbelief and called me a liar again. Jenny, don't be like this, okay? He rested his forehead on my shoulder, his warm breath tickling my skin. Don't treat me this way. I'm a person too. I hurt. I get wounded, and sometimes, I just want you to take the first step to love me just a little more. My heart pounded harder. My face burned. Part of me thought talking about love in a marriage of convenience was absurd, but another part of me trembled from the emotions I couldn't suppress. Honestly, Martin was everything I ever wanted in a partner. If we had started with a real relationship, we would have fallen in love for sure. Martin sat up slightly and looked down at me. I thought he was going to kiss me, but he didn't. He simply stroked my hair with a gravity I'd never seen before. Then he said, "So tomorrow you're coming to the hospital with me. We're going to get your brain checked properly. All right?" Excuse me? What kind of nonsense was that? Did he even hear what he said just before that? I shoved him hard, indignant, eyes wide. "I'm warning you, if you call me dumb again, I won't talk to you. And tell me, how do your sentences even connect logically?" Martin lay back on the bed and pulled me back into his arm with a long sigh. "I've been thinking about it for days. There's something off about you. Everything changed after the accident." Well, obviously things are off when you suddenly get memories of the future implanted in your brain. I didn't argue. I sighed too. Your instincts aren't wrong. Some strange things have happened to me. I chose my words carefully. Do you think it's possible for someone to predict the future? Martin didn't answer, but I didn't need his answer. I kept talking. What I'm about to say, you probably won't believe, but we're living inside a novel. Your older brother is the male lead. Diana is the female lead. You're the second male lead. Paul, at best, is the third. And me. I'm the damned villainess. Martin stayed silent. He only raised a hand to touch my forehead to check for a fever. I swatted his hand away and held it. According to the plot, Diana eventually breaks up with Paul and develops a vague, ambiguous bond with you. But since you're married, she ethically chooses to let you go. Then your big brother steps in and ends up with her. Meanwhile, she meets all these other brilliant young men. They all fall for her. But since she doesn't want a harem-type story, she finally chooses your brother in a classic one-to-one romance. Martin, did you read another one of those weird novels again? I knew it. I knew he wouldn't believe me. I raised 3 fingers. I swear I didn't. When I started getting these memories, I didn't even know who Diana was. Martin's expression turned serious. Keep going. After that, Diana marries your brother. You and Paul voluntarily back off. You become her silent protectors, ready to eliminate any obstacles for her. Even more men come along who also protect her. Martin didn't seem interested in that part. He asked, "And you?" I let out a long sigh and told him, "I die." Martin's arm around me tightened, and I die in a very tragic way. Just thinking about it made me feel sick. I had to sniff hard to stop the tears. I fall in love with your older brother, but he despises me. Heartbroken. I try to seduce Paul, but he's even crueler. He humiliates me and tries to get me arrested. I'm a model citizen. I didn't give him the chance. When I finally got tired of everything and tried to come back to you, you handed me divorce papers. No matter how much I begged, you were completely indifferent. Martin kept stroking my back, not interrupting once. We got divorced. My parents were furious. They forbade me from coming home, canceled my trust fund, and froze my cards. Everyone in our circle mocked me. I couldn't stay in H City. I moved to a small town with just 2 suitcases full of jewelry and designer labels. Before I could even find a place to stay, everything was stolen. I went to the police, but there were no cameras, no suspects. They said they'd keep an eye out. I never heard back. Within 15 days, I died of starvation in a rented room. I slammed the mattress, furious. You know how I died? Holding a chive pancake from the trash. I don't even like chive pancakes. I'd rather starve than eat one. What was the point? Even at death's door, I was still stubborn. Martin couldn't help but laugh. And then what happened? Well, nothing really. I was dead. What happened after had nothing to do with me. But I told him how it all ended anyway. News of my death reached H City. Everyone said I deserved it. No one came to see me off. The Chan family hired some random guy to take care of the funeral. That guy pocketed the cemetery money and dumped my ashes somewhere. When he saw I was finished, Martin kissed my forehead. He stroked my cheek. Poor thing. How could you have a dream like that? He doesn't believe me, and I get it. If I hadn't lived through it, I wouldn't believe it either. So I didn't blame him. I even showed some understanding. I'm 23. I still have a long and beautiful life ahead of me. I don't want to die so soon. That's why I'm staying far away from all of you. If one day you want a divorce, just tell me. I won't make it hard for you. There won't be a divorce. Martin held my face in both hands and stared at me intensely. Jenny Chan, no matter what you forget, remember this, on our wedding day, we promised to go through life together. I'm not divorcing you. Don't even think about it. We made that promise? Really? My face must have said it all. Martin tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, his eyes growing misty. I'm sorry, I replied quickly. I don't blame you. He looked devastated. His voice was filled with guilt. It was my fault for not taking better care of you. That's why you had the accident. It wasn't his fault. It was my own clumsiness. I should have noticed something sooner. He kissed my lips. It wasn't a passionate kiss. It was comforting. Don't worry. Tomorrow we'll go to the hospital. We'll do all the tests. Everything will be okay. Excuse me? Does Martin seriously think something's wrong with me? That I've lost my mind? Chapter 10. I was definitely not okay. Martin took me to a different hospital. Specifically for this occasion, the diagnosis, memory confusion caused by a concussion. The doctor, calmly adjusting his silver-framed glasses, explained, this kind of situation is rare. Concussions usually cause amnesia. The patient may forget the days around the accident or selectively suppress part of the past. In some cases, they lose all memory. But this memory confusion Mrs. Liu is experiencing. This is the first time I've seen such a case. I was completely lost. Martin, sitting beside me, added, she likes reading novels. Could it have something to do with that? I had already told the doctor about my tragic experience, one that felt lived but hadn't actually happened. The doctor nodded. That's very possible. You might want to check Mrs. Liu's reading history. Perhaps the answer lies there. I like reading novels. Could be. Since I didn't work, I needed something to keep myself entertained. The doctor, very patient, began going through my saved reading list together with Martin. They went through it quickly, discarding some just by reading the synopsis. Apparently, I used to be a huge fan of online novels. After almost an hour, they finally landed on one titled The Fallen Cinderella Reborn as the Queen of All, a proper melodrama. The title alone was embarrassing enough coming from the mouths of 2 grown men. To be fair, lately the titles of novels had been getting increasingly ridiculous. Just reading them made me want to skip them, but since they all looked similar, I'd usually read the synopses and first few chapters to avoid missing a good one. That one did sound familiar. The plot was fairly typical. but the author's style was clear and snappy. I liked it, though I couldn't remember details. Martin and the doctor read chapter after chapter, and in chapter 33, the villainous Jenny finally appeared. Bingo. Mystery solved. The doctor sat back at his desk and analyzed calmly. According to the reading history, Mrs. Liu made it to chapter 97. In that exact chapter, the character Jenny Chan, same name as yours, disappears from the story. This coincides with the day of your accident. Upon waking up, you confused reality with the novel's plot. But those memories felt too real. I shook my head. I don't think so. In my memories, the protagonist was named Diana, and she looked exactly like my brother-in-law's ex. I had never seen her before. Perhaps you had seen her somewhere or heard her name. Are you completely sure you saw her face clearly in your dream? Now that he mentioned it, I wasn't sure. The image only became clear after Lisa showed me her resume. The doctor added, very likely. In The Fallen Cinderella Reborn as the Queen of All, the protagonist does interact with all three brothers. She's also introduced as the youngest brother's ex-girlfriend. Just like in your life. That's too much of a coincidence. I countered. Okay, that makes sense, but I have a friend. The guy she likes also had something with Diana. I've never seen him, but I know my friend was a villainess in that story too. And her storyline played out exactly like that. What exactly did your friend tell you? She said her crush added Diana and that they talked constantly. Are you sure she said the name Diana? I checked my chats with Zoe on my phone. Wow, Zoe had never mentioned the name Diana. Maybe she didn't even know her name. The doctor suggested, why don't you call and ask her directly? Martin also agreed. Zoe knows Diana's face. She sent you photos of her with the third brother. If her crush was talking to Diana, she wouldn't describe her under a different name. It made sense. I messaged Zoe asking if she had pictures of the girl talking to her crush. She responded instantly. Clearly she'd been keeping tabs. She sent over a dozen photos, all taken from suspicious angles, and it was obvious, the girl in the photos was not Diana. I stood there stunned, full of doubt. Meanwhile, Martin and the doctor were discussing treatment. The doctor's response was straight out of a TV drama. He couldn't guarantee when I'd regain clarity, maybe tomorrow, maybe never. There was no effective treatment currently. He recommended that Martin and others close to me talk about the past with me. Take me to familiar places, maybe that would help jog my memory. I seized the chance to ask, Doctor, I hadn't even heard the name Diana before. Is that the protagonist's name in the novel? Oh no. Her name is Victoria, and her signature trait is that she loves mooncakes with lotus paste. Can coincidences like this really happen? If coincidences didn't exist, neither would the word coincidence. I didn't know what to say to that. That day, it was pouring rain in H City. When we left the hospital, the rain had stopped, and a double rainbow arched across the sky. No need to ask, Martin's mood was as bright as the view. Following the doctor's advice, he took me to a restaurant we used to frequent. Remember? Our first date was here, at this table, while we waited for our food. He looked at me with eyes full of hope. I had to remind him. My problem is memory confusion, not amnesia. Martin smiled, his joy reaching his eyebrows. Then do you remember where we first met? I frowned. Wasn't it at that arranged date? His smile faded. You really don't remember. Or are you joking? I don't remember. Don't joke about this. I tried hard to recall, but came up blank. I swear I don't. Martin's face darkened. Jenny, this isn't funny. Oops. Looks like I did have amnesia after all. Why don't you tell me? Martin, curtly, it was at your older brother's birthday party 5 years ago. Think hard. I did remember that birthday. You were there? How else do you think I met you? I took a deep breath. You're saying we met 5 years ago? Martin's expression eased a bit. Not exactly met. I saw you once. I asked your brother to introduce us, but he said you had just turned 18 and weren't thinking about that yet. I see. So it was a one-sided observation from you. You talked to me. Really? Yes. He said it with such conviction that I started to doubt myself. But my head wasn't cooperating. I talked to a lot of people that night. Martin, did our families have much contact? How were you invited to my brother's birthday? The Liu family was based in H City. The Chan family had roots in a city and only recently began expanding into H City, with their first joint project with the Liu family. Your eldest sister-in-law is a distant relative of the Lius. Did you forget that too? Martin was incredulous. And do you remember that it was your brother and sister-in-law who arranged our date? I was stunned. That happened? Martin squinted, as if remembering, then, as if everything made sense. He said, "That's why you mentioned marriage of convenience that day. Do you really think our marriage was just for interests? Wasn't it? Also, when did my brother get married?" I asked just that. Martin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. A long time ago. They have 3 kids already. Weren't those kids born out of wedlock? They're legitimate. I slammed my phone on the table. How shameless can he be? Married and still a womanizer. He and his wife get along great. That can't be. I didn't buy it. He learned from my dad. Keep the wife at home while having mistresses. My father's even worse. He filled my life with half-siblings. Martin shook his head and sighed. Say that to their faces and see if they ever let you back in the house. I don't want to go back anyway. But you should. I think you need to talk to them. I stopped. Is that part of the novel plot too? Martin nodded. So, my parents and older brother actually love me a lot? Martin nodded again. Then why didn't they visit me at the hospital? Not even one call. They stayed with you for a whole night. You woke up once. Then they left. Someone had to handle the gala dinner. Your dad and brother were busy with work. Your mom was organizing her new studio. Once they saw you were okay, they returned to a city. The doctor recommended rest. So they didn't want to disturb you. They texted me every day to check on you. Martin seemed surprised. You really didn't contact them this whole time? They didn't contact me either. Maybe because I told them you were already recovering. So they didn't worry. Really? Very likely. Your whole family hates talking on the phone. For you all. No news means everything's fine. You only call if it's an emergency. Honestly, I really was the type who never texted anyone. My WhatsApp was full of contacts. But I only chatted a bit more with Martin and Zoe. And even with Zoe, she usually messaged me first. No wonder Martin insisted so much that I call home. I reflected deeply. One really has to be careful walking. A simple fall, and look at all the misunderstandings it caused. Chapter 11. Lisa was back by my side. She thanked me for the great favor I'd done Diana, and upon learning about my condition, became even more attentive. Martin was still swamped with work and didn't have time to take me around the city, so he made a list and asked Lisa to accompany me to visit 1 or 2 places a day. When the short holiday arrived, he made a special trip to take me to a city. Just like he'd said, my parents were doing well, still just as in love as ever. My brother and sister-in-law too. All 3 of their children were healthy and growing happily at home. My parents told me that the first project between the Chan and Liu families had been finalized even before Martin and I met on that arranged date. The real bridge between the 2 families had been my older brother and his wife. The project wasn't too big or too small, perfect for young people to treat as practice. Once signed, it was handed over to my brother and Martin. Back then, my brother was still dating my sister-in-law and often traveled to H City to visit her. Over time, he became friends with Martin and Joel. Martin first saw me at my brother's birthday party. They say it was love at first sight. Since then, he started paying special attention to me. But my brother didn't approve. He had started his relationship and married young, and didn't want me to follow in his footsteps. He made Martin wait 2 more years. Until I turned 20. Martin was impatient. So, on my 20th birthday, he asked my sister-in-law, who also happened to be his cousin, for help. She gladly agreed and told my parents everything that same day. My parents were pleased with Martin, so they contacted the elders of the Liu family and arranged a formal meeting. That was, in fact, my first arranged date. I'd never had another. The blow to my head had scrambled my memories. And it wasn't like Martin and I were forced into marriage either. After the date, he left a good impression. I was studying at a university in H City, so when he had time, he'd take me out for dinner or a movie. We went out several times, and the relationship progressed quickly. That year, during Qixi, the Chinese Valentine's Day, Martin proposed with a romantic gesture. I didn't object. A few days later, our parents met in a private room at a hotel to discuss the marriage. Everything moved forward naturally. And the marriage was not only welcomed by our families, it was welcomed by us too. By Martin and me. During the process, my brother seriously opposed it twice. He always felt I was too young and didn't want me marrying so soon. Martin responded that I was already of legal age. Plus, my sister-in-law had also married my brother on her 20th birthday. He couldn't argue further and eventually gave in. If there was one thing that might be seen as a negative in our marriage, it was that, 3 years in, we still hadn't had kids. But none of the elders pressured us. My parents already had 3 adorable grandchildren and didn't want me to rush. They said I was still young and should enjoy a few more years. Because once children arrived, all attention would shift to them. Just look at how exhausted my sister-in-law was. Martin's family wasn't in a rush either. Joel Liu was nearing 30 and they still weren't urging him to marry, let alone pressuring us to have children. The issue was on my end. Personally, I love children. Martin, on the other hand, wanted to extend our child-free life a bit longer. His work consumed all his time, and he was worried he couldn't take on the role of father properly. This man really loves me. If he could, I think he'd prefer we never have kids, just so I'd keep all my attention on him. He's hinted at that several times, and I've always shot him down immediately. Our premarital exams came out perfect. The doctors said I was in excellent health, and ironically, that made it harder to get pregnant. That's how I learned that an overly healthy female body isn't always ready to carry new life. Sometimes, the healthier it is, the more resistant it becomes to conception. After the accident, I was so focused on survival and mentally preparing for divorce that having children never even crossed my mind. But now, things had calmed down. I decided to just go with the flow. At 10 a.m., Lisa and I left on time. There were only a few places left on Martin's list. The first stop of the day, Liu Group. Even though my memories were scrambled, my life as a kept woman had been very real. After graduating, I married Martin. I told him I didn't like working and wanted to freelance from home. He gave me a secondary card and told me to do whatever I liked without worry. Over these 3 years, I tried everything, with no results. Before the accident, I had started learning painting, dreaming of becoming an artist. I looked at my own work, not art, not even close. I guess my family had spoiled me too much. And after marriage, Martin pampered me even more. I'd never had that harsh wake-up call from society. I did everything half-heartedly. Outside the company building, I called Martin. He came down personally to greet us. Lisa asked to be excused so she could go say hi to Diana. My curiosity was piqued. I asked Martin to wait for me in his office. I wanted to see what Diana was like in person. To my surprise, Diana wasn't with Joel as expected, but working beside Paul. When he saw me, Paul immediately walked over with long strides. "Sis-in-law, you're here?" He didn't even ask why, just ordered his assistant to bring me tea and snacks. Diana didn't look good in photos. In person, she was much prettier. She wore a couple ring-matching Pauls. Clearly, they were back together. Diana was visibly uncomfortable about what had happened and stood stiffly in front of me. "Miss Chan, I'm truly sorry. Because of me, things got misunderstood. Paul, this idiot, doesn't listen. I already scolded him. I hope you won't blame him." Her voice was soft and warm, like a spring breeze. I felt a bit guilty. Before knowing the truth, I'd mentally criticized her more than once. "It's nothing, really. It was my fault too." I bit my lip and forced a smile. My brain was scrambled from the accident. I didn't know the full situation and interfered where I shouldn't have. "I told Paul to break up with you. Good thing he didn't listen. Otherwise, I'd be a criminal." Diana waved her hands. No, everything you said was exactly what I feared most. I'm sure you've heard my story. The Liu family is huge and powerful. I never thought he'd really go this far with me. After you talked to him, he understood why I had doubts. He took me to meet his parents. They were very kind. That reassured me, and I decided to stay with him. Paul also thanked me sincerely. He still looked shaken, but I swear, your words froze me. You said something about family alliances. That even a gigolo wouldn't pay to be with her. I thought you were serious. I knew how much my brother loves you, and I felt like he didn't deserve that. Remembering that made me die of embarrassment. I really had sounded like a heartless snob. No wonder Martin had gotten so mad he moved into the office. Paul noticed my discomfort and changed the subject. So how are you feeling now? Much better. It had taken me 2 days to finish reading The Fallen Cinderella Reborn as the femme fatale. Even if my memories weren't completely back to normal, at least I could now tell what was part of the story. Everyone around me was treating me patiently. Whenever I asked something, they'd answer without hesitation. After sitting for a while, I got up to leave. Martin had messaged me asking me to come up and join him. At the door, Paul stopped me. Sis-in-law, please take care of yourself. This time, he spoke with rare seriousness. You don't know how scared my brother was the day of your accident. I'd never seen him cry like that. His whole body trembled. He was terrified of losing you. I had been unconscious that day. I had no idea what happened. It was the first time anyone had told me. Chapter 12. My relationship with Martin was a bit strange. From him and his friends and family, it wasn't hard to learn how deeply he cared about me. Unfortunately, I didn't remember any of it. For 3 months, the malicious supporting role identity had taken root in my mind. During that time, I only appreciated him from a distance, kept myself in a safe position, and was always ready to retreat. He would vividly recount how we met, how we got together, how we married, and how sweet our life was after marriage. But I couldn't feel any of it. Still, he really was my type. Feelings developed quickly, just not at the same pace. Sometimes Martin would fall silent, quietly staring at me. I could clearly sense he wasn't satisfied with my reactions. He'd be talking about something between the two of us, some of which I actually remembered, but I didn't respond enthusiastically enough. That upset him. Once when I borrowed his phone, I saw a long string of search history. How to treat amnesia. How can memory be restored after amnesia? What to do about memory confusion from concussion? Does hypnosis help with memory retrieval? And so on. He had consulted many doctors. The online consultations weren't conclusive. When 2 doctors mentioned more serious conditions, he didn't even continue the conversation. Lisa said that while I was resting in my room, the family doctor would occasionally visit and spend at least an hour in Martin's study. He desperately wanted me to return to normal. In front of me, he acted like the flawless perfect husband, never showing that urgency or frustration. He'd been very busy lately, often working late into the night. We hadn't had a proper talk in a while. Today I visited his company. He was in a good mood and took me on a tour during lunch break. Back in his office, I handed him the list. I've almost finished going to all the places you wrote down. Doesn't seem very helpful. Martin took the list, scanning it. Tired of it? Don't want to go anymore? He knew I preferred staying home. It's not that. My condition is a bit different from normal amnesia, right? I haven't lost much memory, just confused. Familiar places don't help much. Okay. He crumpled the list and tossed it into the trash. We won't go anymore. That wasn't what I meant. I finished reading the novel. I know now which parts were real and which weren't. He praised me feebly. Good girl. I mean, even if I stay like this forever, you don't have to worry. The memory confusion doesn't affect my daily life. Don't overexert yourself. You're already busy enough. Let things run their course. Martin's smile faltered. I don't like you being sick. I'm not sick. Not fully recovered, in my eyes. That's still sick. There's no real cure. Martin patted his thigh, gesturing for me to sit. He wanted to hold me when he felt insecure. He liked holding me. I sat on his lap, pressing close, gently patting his back like he did to comfort me. Martin, I really like you. Don't be like this, okay? Martin muttered. You used to say you loved me. I quickly corrected myself. I love you. You used to kiss me on your own. I kissed him. I still do. How could you say we're in a business marriage? He really held a grudge over that. I had a brain injury, okay? You even said you wanted a divorce. I won't anymore. We'll live well together from now on. Who else could I find if I left you? Martin huffed. Don't your girlfriends always try to set you up? I'd never marry those kinds of men. Oh, so if they weren't that kind, you would? His jealousy was palpable. You even brought some guy's nude pic home. Impressive. Jenny. I was innocent. Zoe shoved it into my bag. If I'd known. I wouldn't have accepted it. And he was wearing underwear, hardly nude. A guy? Martin grumbled. He didn't look that young. A bit younger than us. They're in a boy group. Just debuted. So they can't be too old. You think I'm old? He tightened his hold around my waist. I'm 25. That's not old. Who said he was old? I patiently stroked his hair, imitating his tone full of affection and helplessness. If our brain's not well, we should treat it. Don't ignore the problem, okay? Martin couldn't help laughing. He pulled me back against him and half reclined. Relaxed. I watched the surveillance of your talk with the third one. He said, I know. You were watching it the day I got home. I watched it many times. Back then, I didn't know it was post-concussion confusion. I thought you'd been acting for over 3 years. When you spoke to him, you looked so serious. It was very convincing. So you believed it? Half and half. I was confused, but you didn't explain anything. You came home and didn't even greet me, like you were silently admitting to it all. Blame the previous hospital. They never caught the issue after several checks. Maybe my case was just too unusual. The scans didn't show anything clearly. I barely slept that whole week at the office. My brother was afraid I'd drop dead, so he stayed with me until I fell asleep each night. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore and demanded the truth. I told him. He was calmer than I was. He immediately noticed something was wrong and told me to take you for another check. So my big brother-in-law helped too? Martin continued. And you? You were eating, drinking, having fun without me. Even brought some guy's card home. That wasn't on purpose. Zoe gave it to me, and I forgot about it instantly. If my bag hadn't tipped over, who knows when I'd have found it. I didn't like carrying the same bag twice. I was really mad then. Didn't even want to talk to you. He complained, then added with a smile. But then you came to pull me back. Asked if I'd eaten, and just like that, I wasn't angry anymore. You're easy to please. He shook his head. I just love you too much. Martin wasn't one to express love outright. He preferred actions. These words were unusually sappy for him, not something he'd normally say out loud. Maybe I had forgotten? His personality, at most. He'd show a bit of grievance or lightly act clingy when he felt very insecure and needed comfort. Like now. I hugged him tighter, sighing silently. I really was a mess. Didn't even put effort into our wedding anniversary. The shoes were too high and didn't fit. And I didn't even watch my step walking downstairs. Martin had warned me literally 1 second before I fell and tumbled down right in front of him. He must have been terrified. No one blamed me afterward. Who could? Since I was the one injured? But of all times, I just had to be reading that ridiculous Everyone Loves Me novel before it happened. The author really knew how to write, randomly gave a supporting character the same name as me. To be fair, my name wasn't even common. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Martin was clearly exhausted, eyes closed as he held me, trying to rest. I figured I'd let him nap a bit and tried to get up. He jolted awake and immediately pulled me back. Tense. Where are you going? You should nap in the rest area. There's still half an hour before your meeting. Stay with me. I wasn't sleepy. I'd slept till 9 in the morning. Seeing the dark circles under his eyes, I couldn't say no. Okay. Chapter 13. My husband loves me too much. What should I do? Martin had gone to a meeting, leaving me in the lounge with instructions to wait so he could take me to dinner afterward. Bored out of my mind, I started chatting gossip with Zoe and told her what had been going on. Zoe replied with a string of ellipses. The little wolf dog is lying in my bed. No need for dog food. Thanks. So your amnesia is real? Me, technically. It's memory confusion. But yeah, I did lose some memories. Zoe, you're unbelievable. What exactly is it about those shoes from that brand that attracted you? I told you they're uncomfortable, and you still insisted on wearing them. Not wearing them anymore. I don't even think they're that good looking now. They nearly cost you your life. No way they looked good. A few minutes later, Zoe sent a long message. Martin, acting like this makes total sense. You passed out cold that day. No matter how we called you, you wouldn't wake up. The Liu family villa is in the suburbs, and it took time for the ambulance to get there. We didn't dare move you. In the business world, Martin is always calm and in control. Honestly, I've known him for years and had never seen him so helpless. He was crying. Just kept calling your name, you were completely unresponsive. Like you were gone. I thought if you really died, he'd follow you right then and there. I didn't expect Zoe had been there. Sounded like she was well aware of how Martin felt about me. In our chats before, when I said Martin and I were just a business couple. Why didn't you argue? Zoe snapped. Girl, when you get into your moods, you say anything and everything. You even gave me a little card. Martin saw it. Not the first time. Not the first time? I was shocked. No way. Martin said we were deeply in love and I'd never cheat on him. Who said you cheated? Zoe couldn't take it anymore and sent a voice message. Girl, you're a hot commodity. So many little Pauls out there want you to be their sugar mama. The guys we date have their own little circles. Once you get in, they love matchmaking. We agreed beforehand, you take their contact info politely. Then act like nothing happened. It was just a small favor they asked. So I gave them a little hope. How was I supposed to know you hit your head and lost your mind? I asked. And you even gossiped about my husband and Diana, saying she goes after married men? Just tea. Just tea. That was all rumors. I didn't believe it. I was just messing with you. Truly a plastic bestie. Joking about stuff like that. Your husband loves you. What's wrong with that? In our circle, real love is rare. If you feel guilty, just be nicer to him. His birthday's next month. You haven't forgotten, right? That caught me off guard. After thinking for a bit, the exact date popped into my head. Phew. Relieved. Zoe's reminder was timely. I hadn't picked out a gift for Martin yet. Martin was practical. Just like me. Every year, he gave me luxury items that appreciated in value. And I gave him gold that retained value. He never complained, must have liked it enough. But this year was different. I wanted to do something special. Something that would really make him happy. I thought and suddenly realized I had no idea what he actually wanted. Martin always seemed like a man who placed career above all. He enjoyed the thrill of business conquest. Though I lazed around at home, I wasn't entirely useless to his career. Marrying me gave him both love and career success. But the joint projects were handled by my dad and brother. I had no clue about them. Pulling off a surprise project was unrealistic. I barely knew anything about investing either. He was the one who led me into good opportunities. Giving him money would be worse. I still lived on the allowance he gave me. Martin got off work on time that day. He reserved a table at a restaurant near his office. Seeing me look troubled, he asked with concern, "Are you feeling unwell?" Chewing my fork, I decided not to rack my brain anymore and got straight to the point. "What do you want for your birthday?" Martin, clearly used to my lack of tact, didn't even twitch an eyebrow. "It's still a while away. It's next month. You usually go buy gold the day before," I said sheepishly. "This year I want to give you something better. I don't think you'll find anything better than gold." "Of course gold's great, it holds value," I pouted. So shallow, blinded by money. Martin gave me a half smile. "I meant, with your obsession with money, you probably can't see anything better." So he was implying I was shallow. I'm a strange one, grew up well off, yet still obsessed with money. The steak arrived. Martin cut it for me and handed over my plate. Then he suddenly said, "Actually, there is one thing I really want." My eyes lit up. "Tell me." "I'll tell you when we get home." He was being all mysterious, and I thought it must be something serious. The moment we got home, I pestered him to tell me. He walked into the study and locked the door behind him. Not 5 minutes later, he came out holding a sheet of A4 paper. Martin had studied calligraphy as a kid, and it showed. Those few lines of text were bold, powerful, full of character. "Sign this." I took it, in black and white. It said, 1. Party B guarantees never to divorce Party A. 2. Party B guarantees never to betray Party A. 3. Party B guarantees never to abandon Party A. He had already signed his name under Party A. Figures, classic businessman move. All the obligations on Party B. I looked at him. "This isn't legally binding." "I know." He handed me a fountain pen. "But I trust you're not someone who breaks promises." That was the exact excuse I'd given Paul the day he came storming over. I couldn't tell if Martin was teasing me or hinting at something. Since it was what he wanted, I signed it without fuss. Martin treated it like a treasure and solemnly placed it in the safe. I laughed at him. What are we, middle schoolers in love? He looked over with a calm gaze and replied, that's why you can't see anything better than gold. It's just a piece of paper. Martin feigned surprise. Can't believe you're calling your own heartfelt promise a piece of trash. I didn't argue. As long as he was happy. When his birthday came, I still went out and bought 10 gold bars, leaving them on his desk. But that sheet of paper seemed truly important to him. After that, he stopped obsessing over doctors or dragging me around to reminisce about the past. Now that I knew he wasn't just some romantic second male lead, I was more than willing to build a relationship with him. Our bond grew closer every day. It made sense. We were exactly each other's type. Just before the new year, we scheduled a health checkup. Because I was a married woman and my period was over 10 days late, the doctor cautiously suggested a pregnancy test first. I'd done this before and didn't think much of it. But when the result came back, both Martin and I were completely shocked. I was pregnant. The child we'd been hoping for over the past 3 years had finally made its home in my womb. Chapter 14. Martin said having a child or not made no difference to him, but in truth, he was thrilled. That very afternoon, news of my pregnancy had already spread among friends and family. It was still early, and there were no visible signs yet. Lisa, who hadn't been back in the household for long, was assigned to return here. She had no experience with this kind of thing. She was mainly there to supervise the new live-in maid and, along the way, keep me company and entertain me. Paul and Diana made a special trip to bring me nutritional supplements. Ever since their relationship stabilized, the spoiled brat's temperament had mellowed out. Suit, tie, adult hairstyle, he almost looked like a serious man. Martin had beaten him up before, but Paul seemed to have no memory of it. He greeted me casually and headed straight for the study to strengthen his brotherly bond with Martin. Diana and Lisa stayed with me in the living room. Lisa mentioned that Paul and Diana were nearly official now, and apparently Joel Liu also had something in the works. Good news kept flowing in the Liu family lately. Diana had heard about my memory confusion but never had the chance to ask me about it. Now that she finally saw me, she couldn't help but bring it up. I told her everything in detail, and both she and Lisa laughed until they cried. It's just too much of a coincidence. The villainess has your name, and the protagonist loves mooncakes with lotus paste. That's not all, I said. The protagonist's tangled up with 3 rich brothers. Starts off as the youngest brother's ex-girlfriend. And the villainess, me, is married to the second. Diana wiped her tears from laughing so hard. So that's why you told Paul all that? You thought he wouldn't end up with you and figured it was better to cut things off early? I rubbed my nose, a little embarrassed. I thought it wasn't worth having a side character ruin another's life. And that day he looked like he was about to cry. It was kind of pitiful. The brothers walked out of the study just then and overheard the end of the conversation. Paul no longer held any prejudice against me. Now he even seemed eager to talk. He sat next to Diana and whined like a victim. Second sis-in-law, you crushed me that day. I'd been working at the company for a year, finally starting to feel like I wasn't useless. And then you hit me with those words. I questioned my whole existence. Truthfully, I was pretty harsh that day. The only thing I didn't do was point out every single one of his flaws. I'm really sorry, Martin, who was massaging my arm, cut in. Why apologize? He deserved it. Paul wasn't bothered at all. He nodded. You're right. I was a mess. I deserved to be scolded. He was so agreeable it made me feel weird. I asked Diana, so you joined Lou group just for this fool? Diana nodded, a little shy. I had a good job elsewhere, but a senior told me Paul was a wreck after the breakup, smoking, drinking. I'd never met someone who genuinely loved me before, and Paul's one of the rare few. I didn't want him to spiral. Paul lifted his chin proudly. You couldn't forget me. It still felt surreal to me. In my dream, you had just graduated, and when I read the novel, the protagonist was still in college. Paul guessed. Maybe you saw my posts? Diana was under a lot of pressure back then. I posted stories every day to cheer her up. What a weird way to cheer someone up. I didn't mean to brag, but I couldn't help it. Your brother and I never showed anything online. Paul glanced at his second brother. He was paranoid about someone stealing you. You think he'd be out there flaunting his love? Fair enough. I wasn't the type to flaunt my relationship either. After they left, Martin helped me upstairs for a nap. Once bitten by a snake, you'll fear the well for 10 years. Since getting pregnant, Martin had arranged for a downstairs bedroom. He no longer let me sleep in the master bedroom on the second floor. I was scared too. One more fall and it wouldn't be just a concussion. For the sake of this baby, I had to be extremely cautious. But Martin was too cautious. He wouldn't even let me walk a few steps without holding my arm. He helped me lie down, tucked me in, brought a chair, and sat beside me. Clearly, he planned to stay until I fell asleep. Relax, love. You're too tense. Martin smiled and shook his head. No, I just want to take good care of you. I turned to face him and asked, do you really like me that much? He brushed my bangs aside with a gentle smile. What kind of answer do you want to hear? I don't expect a specific answer. I just don't get it. What is it you like so much about me? Was it love at first sight? He thought for a bit. You're young, rich, beautiful, with a stunning body. If you ever looked for a gigolo, he'd want to pay you. That sounded awfully familiar. It was exactly what I had said to Paul that day. I scolded him. What kind of grown man parrots words like that? Martin said nothing. He just smiled as he adjusted the air conditioner with the remote. I woke up naturally, checked the time, 4:30 p.m. Martin wasn't in the room, probably in the study working. Why hadn't he woken me up? If I sleep too much during the day, I won't be able to fall asleep at night. I looked at my phone. All the alarms were turned off. Lisa was in the living room overseeing the cleaning. When she saw me, she came over. Ma'am, the second young master got an urgent notice and had to go to a meeting. Got it. He asked the chef to prepare your favorite chestnut porridge. Do you want it now or? I just woke up. Not very hungry. Later. All right. Would you like me to make something else? I waved my hand. No. Carry on. I'm just going to the study to get a book. I no longer read online novels. They left me with a bit of psychological trauma. The study was full of serious literature. I'd sometimes flip through something just to cultivate myself a little. Once inside, an impulse hit me. I wanted to check how much Martin had saved in his little secret fund. He always said everything was shared property, no yours or mine. He didn't even bother hiding the password. I opened the safe, and the first thing I saw was that childish lifetime promise letter. I picked it up. Something about the paper felt odd. I rubbed it with my fingers. It was 2 sheets stuck together. The one underneath was yellowed with age. The handwriting was large and clumsy. It read, Jenny Chan promises that when she grows up, she will marry Martin. Chapter 15. What ugly handwriting, but it definitely had my style. As a child, I practiced calligraphy. I won't say it was beautiful, but at least it was neat and delicate. I must have written that when I was very young. Did Martin and I really make that promise? I didn't remember a thing. That man is a businessman to the bone. Even as a kid he already knew how to secure a wife. I felt a mix of confusion and amusement just thinking about it. I took a photo and sent it to him. He was probably in a meeting, since he didn't reply until half an hour later. But he wasn't upset that I discovered his secret. On the contrary, he scolded me. I thought you'd find it when you were going through my things after I died. Wasn't it supposed to be private? Then why did you leave it somewhere so easy to find? TCH. I knew you wouldn't remember. I'm not surprised at all. I didn't stay quiet. I was just a kid. Do you remember everything you've experienced since birth? Martin. Shamelessly. Of course I do. Oh, come on. Did we really meet as kids? Take a guess. If I could remember, I wouldn't be asking. Since he was working, I didn't press the issue. At 7 in the evening, he came home to have dinner with me. At the table, I asked him again, and he gave me such a reproachful look, like a husband who had been abandoned. I went to fetch my medical records and laid them out in front of him. Mr. Liu, do you recall that your wife is suffering the after-effects of a concussion? You wouldn't remember even without it. Maybe I would. It just hasn't come back to me yet. His expression clearly said, yeah, sure. I believe you, but just a little. I rolled my eyes, pretending not to care. Whatever. I'm not that curious anyway. Martin didn't fall for it. He kept eating in silence. But the less he said, the more I wanted to know. Maybe it was my puppy dog eyes that softened his iron heart. That night, with the lights off, Martin began to tell the story. Before they emigrated, my grandparents lived in a city, in the same neighborhood as the Chans. I perked up my ears in the dark. As a kid, I often went with my parents to visit them. There weren't many kids in that neighborhood. Your brother didn't want to play with you. My brother is 5 years older than me. By the time I could think for myself, he already had his own group of friends. He didn't like being shadowed around. Martin continued. We met a few times in the neighborhood park. When you found out I would play with you, you started coming every day to play house. What do you mean I accompanied you? You were a kid too. You must have liked it too. No, I never liked those games. All right, to be honest, I couldn't picture him playing house either. And then, you said you loved me so much, and that when you grew up, you were going to marry me, with 3 so muchs. What a bold little girl I was. That sheet is the marriage contract you wrote for me. Martin sounded amused. Since you didn't know how to write yet, I taught you letter by letter in the sand. I bet you convinced me to do it. I told you we were too young to talk about marriage, and you cried until you couldn't breathe, clinging to my legs so I wouldn't leave. Lies. I was a very proper girl. I'd never do that. Martin sighed in the darkness. You lack courage. Jenny, you can't face your past actions. Your provocations won't work on me. I'm just telling the truth. Well, I'm not accepting it. Martin chuckled. Don't you think you were a coward? I'm sure you felt something for me these past few months. Being the handsome, loyal side character. Why didn't you win me over earlier? Wouldn't that have been better than planning to divorce me? I grumbled. Life is worth more than love, and now you care about your life? Then why didn't you listen when I told you to be careful going down the stairs? Don't remind me. I regret it so much. Martin carefully pulled me into an embrace. Don't ever hurt yourself again. Silly. I think that incident became a knot in his heart. I caressed his cheek. Don't think about it anymore. I'm okay. See? You call having a scrambled memory being okay? But I'm still alive and kicking. I took his hand and placed it over my belly. Now I'm a healthy mom-to-be. Pregnancy is really tough. I know. So let's only have this one, all right? I love children, but I don't need many. One is enough to raise with all the love and care in the world. Then make sure you take precautions. Of course. I'm not taking any pills. Martin gently caressed my belly with his big hand. Pills aren't good for you. They're off limits. That's something I loved about him. He knew how to take care of his wife's body. Some men only think about their own pleasure and couldn't care less about the rest. I leaned in to kiss him. I kissed his chin, and he lowered his head to kiss my lips. He tasted faintly of mint. He doesn't smoke or drink. His body smells only of shampoo and shower gel. After a while, he pulled away. I let out a confused mem. He said, no more kisses. Time to sleep. I understood instantly. I pulled out of his arms and lay back down on my side of the bed. We were sleeping apart for safety now, to avoid putting pressure on my belly. Martin stayed by my side for a bit, then got up. Go to sleep. I'm going upstairs to shower. Isn't there a bathroom here in the room? I don't want to wake you. I'm not even sleepy yet. So he stayed. Before going into the bathroom, he turned on the light so I wouldn't use my phone in the dark. When he came out, his body still damp, he slipped carefully under the covers, keeping a respectful distance. He turned to face me. Do you know why I asked you to sign that promise? That woke me up completely. I looked at him with curiosity. Why? You never wanted to tell me. Because of that marriage contract you wrote me as a child. His eyes were smiling, carrying that handsome but dangerous guy vibe. I thought, you promised to marry me as a little girl. And now, as a grown woman, you're Mrs. Liu. If you promise never to leave me, you're bound to keep it. I laughed at him. He was just as childish as Paul. He took my right hand and held it with reverence. His warmth flowed through my fingers and spread through my whole body. My heart pounded harder. My face burned. I instinctively avoided his intense gaze. Then he was the one who teased. Embarrassed? After all we've been through? We've only been married 3 years. But I've loved you for much longer than that. I gasped in mock horror. How awful! You liked little girls? Pervert! Martin burst out laughing and squeezed my hand. What are you imagining? You were already 18 when I saw you at your brother's birthday. That was just 5 years ago. And isn't that enough? I moved closer to him and spoke with seriousness. Not really. Martin raised his eyebrows. I smiled, because we still have many more 5 years ahead of us. He was silent for a second, then his expression softened, and he pressed his forehead against mine. I see all those romance novels weren't a waste. You speak beautifully. Have I ever said anything you didn't like? Never. Then shouldn't we sign another one? Martin, completely satisfied, pulled me into his arms again. All right, but remember, you said many more 5 years await us. I patted my chest and promised. Don't worry, I'm a woman of my word. Martin's extra chapter. Chapter 1. Love. Are you busy? I want to show you something. Haha. I'm dying laughing. Jenny's message arrived just as I was leaving the meeting room, while walking toward my office. I opened the image she had sent me. It was a screenshot from one of those ridiculously cliché novels, something along the lines of the arrogant CEO falls in love with me. She loves those kinds of stories, said they required zero thinking, perfect for killing time. Another one of her favorite pastimes was sending me absurd excerpts so we could laugh at how ridiculous they were together. It's not like I had time to waste. And she knew that. She only ever sent me the highlights. In the image, there was a red circle around the words 5 million. Apparently, the ultra-rich protagonist was fighting his brother to the death over a project worth that amount. Too funny. I couldn't wait even a minute to share this with you. Do I love you or what? I immediately pictured her laughing, eyes sparkling with amusement. I couldn't help but smile. I replied, teasingly, stop reading that stuff. It's rotting your brain. Jenny sent me a sticker of a pouting cartoon character. Lies. I've heard of people going dumb from a blow to the head, but never from reading novels. Sometimes. Jenny has a cursed prophet's tongue. I'd warned her 1,000 times to watch where she walked. It went in one ear and out the other, and life proved to me, painfully, that she never listened. Thankfully, she didn't lose her wits, but she was left with lingering effects. After throwing up for 2 days clinging to a hospital room trash can, the doctors finally confirmed she was ready to go home. I brought her back. The first thing she did upon arriving? Check on her little treasure. I saw her crouched beside the safe, counting gold bars one by one. When she finished, she let out a long sigh of relief. This woman and her money. Your first move after leaving the hospital is counting gold bars? Still the same as ever. Finally, my heart settled. I had taken a long leave from work to stay by her side, but Jenny wouldn't allow it. She told me, serious and firm, go back to work. I don't need you here if you're not working. How are you going to support me? She always says she's a kept woman. To her, if you're not at the office, you're already a slacker. And this despite the fact that over the years we've made joint investments. And she even opened a gallery with a friend, managed by an agent. Jenny just stays home, waiting for the money to flow in on its own. I asked her several times if she was really okay. She insisted she was. I had an important project, so I didn't argue. Life returned to routine. Our days regained their usual calm. Jenny seemed just like her old self, only she no longer sent me novel links or screenshots. One time I asked her why she wasn't reading anymore. Her expression turned strange, like she was hesitating. Now I understand. She was probably thinking, if I'm already living in a novel, what's the point of reading another one? I had a hunch something was off, but I didn't want to overthink it. As long as she kept relying on me, loving me like before, everything else didn't matter. Chapter 2. The third one is reckless, impulsive, hot-tempered. My older brother and I have talked to him countless times. He swears he'll change, but the improvement is barely noticeable. I ran into his ex, Diana, at the office. She was about to fall, and an image of Jenny's pale, scrunched-up face flashed through my mind. I instinctively reached out to steady her. Once Diana stood firm, I silently let out a breath. The memory of Jenny tumbling down the stairs kept replaying in my head. I couldn't keep a neutral expression. Diana thanked me cautiously and asked if I wasn't feeling well. I gave her a polite smile and shook my head. Out of nowhere, the third one showed up. He yanked Diana behind him and glared at me, seething but not daring to speak. He'd been spoiled since childhood. When angry, he respected no one. But he feared my older brother and me. He knew others wouldn't lay a finger on him, we would. It was an accident, I explained. Miss Diana nearly fell. I caught her. He didn't buy it. Do you think I'm an idiot? I stayed silent. He's not very smart anyway. I still had work to do and didn't feel like arguing, especially not with him in this state. If you've got a problem, talk to me tomorrow. I glanced at the time. I had a video meeting with a client in minutes, so I turned and went back to my office. He didn't follow, but I overheard him accusing Diana of deliberately trying to get close to both his older brothers. He even called my older brother and me cunning old foxes who devour poor, naive Diana down to the bones. Little brat. That's called strategic planning, not being a sly old fox. He'd always been unruly. I was a magnanimous brother. I chose to forgive him. What I didn't expect was for him to have the guts to go behind my back and say God knows what to Jenny. Even more shocking, Jenny Chan didn't care at all. She said we were in a business marriage, driven by benefits. She said finding someone else would be no trouble at all. When she saw me, she didn't look angry or confrontational. She even seemed in a good mood. That wasn't like her. She wasn't one for hysterics. But when faced with a husband's potential infidelity, not even bothering to ask? Definitely abnormal. I wanted to have a serious talk. She refused, said she had a plastic friend meetup. She put those people above me? Maybe she was doing it on purpose, to freeze me out and show she was mad. I drove her there. Jenny chatted on WhatsApp the whole way, not saying a word to me. I didn't know exactly what my younger brother had told her, but from her reaction, it seemed like she believed him and not me. That realization made my blood boil. 3 years of love, and a few words from him were all it took to shake it? Reality was worse than I thought. Jenny didn't distress me, she just didn't care. She thought she was the evil supporting character. To be honest, my wife had a way of saying the wildest things. I'd gotten used to it, but this time, she was too serious. It didn't seem like a joke. I had to face it. Her story was absurd but bizarrely coherent. The logic tight. The details flawless. She even remembered a scallion pancake. Jenny Chan loved sauce pancakes and hand-grabbed ones, but hated scallion pancakes. Apparently, it was the same in her dream. She was heartbroken, both because she was dying and because the author had the nerve to feed her something so unappetizing on her deathbed. Yeah, that didn't make sense. I finally realized and patted her head. I decided to take her to a different hospital for a full checkup. Chapter 3. Memory confusion. It sounded a lot more believable than awakening of memories. Jenny, after a brief hesitation, accepted the diagnosis with total ease. She didn't care, since escaping her fate as the villainess. Her condition had visibly improved day by day. Me, on the other hand, things weren't going so well. My wife was still my wife, but she no longer loved me the way she used to. If I could wish for anything, it would be for her memory to return as soon as possible, so I could be placed back on equal footing with the gold bars in her heart. It sounds ridiculous. I know. While the youngest brother spends his days fighting other men for love, I live competing against gold and stacks of cash. Jenny loves money like it's her very life. And once, she loved me the same way. I was half of her world. 2. She has good instincts. She noticed I was anxious, maybe even a bit lost. And clearly, she didn't want to see me down. She tried to cheer me up, but she's not good at that. Usually, I was the one comforting her, so she lacked practice. Not wanting to put in too much effort, she simply came straight to me and asked what I wanted for my birthday. She said she wanted to give me a different kind of surprise. A surprise like that, I'd never heard anything like it, but coming from Jenny, it felt perfectly natural. I thought, and finally remembered something I truly wanted. When I moved out for university, my grandfather transferred me a duplex downtown, while my parents helped me pack. They found an old marriage promise in a dusty toy box. They teased me, saying I'd been breaking hearts since I was little. For over 10 years, my memories of Jenny Chan had faded. All I had was a vague image of a chubby, adorable little girl. But when I saw that yellowed, wrinkled paper, the long-forgotten memories came flooding back. Nothing especially dramatic, just a childhood playmate. Which is why, when I officially met Jenny again, I told her our first time meeting was at her brother's birthday party. That night, She came running down the stairs and collided straight into me. Her habit of not watching where she's going was already apparent back then. "Sorry. Are you okay?" she said, standing tall with a clear, sweet voice. And I thought, this girl just ran straight into my heart. But Jenny doesn't remember. She doesn't remember. Even though, at our arranged date, when she saw me, her eyes lit up, completely captivated by how I looked. But it doesn't matter. In the end, she became my Mrs. Liu, and if we count from that childhood promise, she was the one who made the first move. That thought made me feel a little better. I asked her to write me a new promise, swearing she would never leave me. I knew it held no legal weight, but the emotional effect was immediate. Jenny didn't understand it. She's so practical she thinks nothing matters outside of houses, bills, and gold, and I share her view, partially. After all, the world is material. I work and earn money, not in pursuit of some lofty ideal, but for tangible things. If the company weren't family-owned, I would have quit a long time ago. Chapter 4. I wasn't short on money before I met Jenny. I wasn't even that into making it. My eldest brother was the heir chosen and groomed by the family. He was impeccable in every way, fully capable of bearing the weight of leadership. Our family didn't set high expectations for me and Paul. As long as we could follow Big Bro and earn a decent living, they were satisfied. Of course, if we made something of ourselves, even better. When I went on that date with Jenny, I asked her about her hobbies. Jenny's eyes sparkled. "I like money." "Money is pretty great." She seemed to find a kindred spirit, right? In today's world, how do you live without money? If I hadn't known she was the Chan family's heiress, I would have thought she'd been through some kind of hardship. Jenny lifted her eyelids with a proud little snort. "You're rich, right? If not, I'm not marrying you." I nodded. "Not too much. Not too little, just enough to support you." "Then you better work twice as hard. I'm expensive to keep. You know." What could I say? She'd laid it out. If I didn't transform into a workaholic, how could I expect to marry her? After we got married, Jenny wasn't too thrilled that I was constantly consumed by work. Once, I happened to see a chat between her and a friend. "My husband's true love is his job." I was about to get mad when I saw her type another line. "But he works so hard to support me." Oh my God, he loves me so much. I'm so happy. I'm the happiest little housewife in the world. When she noticed me standing behind her, she jumped in surprise, then immediately jumped into my arms, wrapping around me like a plush toy. "Hubby, you're 2 minutes late today. I missed you so much." All my irritation vanished. I held her tight, making sure she didn't fall. "My true love is work." Jenny Chan froze for a moment, then pecked me on the cheek with a fawning smile. "Of course your true love is me. What about you? Who else could I love besides you?" That was music to my ears. Jenny knew how to read the room and kept going. "I love you the most." Hubby, how did I get such a perfect husband? I must have saved the whole world in my past life. I raised an eyebrow. "All right. Spill it. What do you want this time?" Jenny grinned and hopped off me, ran to grab her tablet. "Zoe and the girls recommended a few investment opportunities. Can you take a look for me?" Money grubber. I took the tablet and muttered, "If you ever loved me like you love money, I'd be satisfied. I already do. Money is half my life, you're the other half." "Well, that's quite the honor," Jenny Chan said matter-of-factly. "Glad you know it." She sounded so sure, I almost believed it myself. "All right then, if I'm on equal footing with money, what more could I possibly ask for?"